So, did you see that analysis on US interventions in Latin America, where it argues that Washington has been backing drug traffickers while threatening
Yep,
Venezuela?
absolutely.
It's really a head scratcher.
Yeah, it's like they've been playing a double game for decades. What's your take on that history?
Well, it's pretty layered. On one side, the US government has a long standing record of supporting corrupt right wing oligarchs and even drug dealing figures in
I
the
get
region.
that.
And then, on the flip side, we see the current administration. Remember, it's the Trump era analysis, threatening Venezuela, accusing Maduro of cartel leadership without any solid evidence.
Right, and that accusation really seems offbeat, like they're waging a sort of ideological war while ignoring their own track record. How does that even sit with you?
It's totally contradictory. It's like you're throwing water on one part of Latin America while lighting a fire under another. The actions speak of imperial meddling, and it's um, honestly hard not to see the hypocrisy there.
Yeah, that's wild. And then there's the bit about Marco Rubio defending Colombia's former leader Alvaro Uribe, who has real ties with drug trafficking. That point really accentuates the double standards, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Rubio's defense of Uribe, despite his notorious background with drugs and paramilitary groups in Colombia, really underscores how selective American foreign policy can be. They're quick to point fingers when it suits their narrative and then completely ignore similar behavior elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. It's like having one rule for them and another for us. Exactly. And what's interesting is that the video, or the report, even goes through several chapters highlighting infamous events, like the CIA director's blunt remark about lying, cheating, and stealing. That really bears out the claim of state sponsored duplicity.
Yeah, that moment is almost surreal. I mean, having a high level CIA director basically admit to such unethical behaviors, it kind of lays bare the irony, right? Like you're saying, we lie, cheat, steal, and then go off and brand others as villains.
Right? But here's something that puzzles me. Don't you think that sometimes these claims might be exaggerated for political effect? I mean, is it fair to conflate every dubious US ally in the region with outright support for drug trafficking?
That's a fair point, and I can see where you're coming from. However, the evidence compiled, like linking drug cartels to Colombian leaders and showing systematic support over decades, paints a broader picture of complicity. It's
I
more
see
than
that.
just isolated incidents. It's a pattern woven into the fabric of US foreign policy.
I guess the historical context, like for instance Plan Colombia and the complicated relationship with drug trafficking organizations, really brings it all together, right?
Absolutely. Plan Colombia is a perfect example. Designed to combat drug trafficking, it ironically ended up entangling the US with parties who were often involved in unsavory acts.
Yeah, it's like
And
a
we see
boomerang.
similar maneuvers backed by the US in other countries too, like meddling in Honduras and even the CIA backed Contras in Nicaragua.
And the report really doesn't spare any country. It even touches on how recent threats are being used, like to justify a possible military approach toward Venezuela, despite the country's current economic and political isolation. Yeah, that's insane.
Hmm. The rhetoric there is particularly inflammatory, accusing Maduro without evidence of cartel connections, for example. And it just illustrates the selective outrage. It's sort of like using a sledgehammer to crush a fly, right?
Exactly. And then we have the portrayal of US backed coups, like that in Honduras in 2009. The timeline of interference and the outcomes are, well, quite alarming.
For sure. It's like a series of unfortunate events where each move seems to destabilize governments while simultaneously propping up regimes that serve American interests. And what really stings is the hypocrisy, allegedly championing democracy while supporting authoritarian drug trafficking elements.
Right, I totally agree. There's also this interesting bit about how the report suggests that US foreign policy in Latin America is built on a foundation of past interventions. How much do you think historical context plays into shaping its current policies?
Oh, it plays a huge role. Look, the unbroken chain of support, from the drug dealing regimes in Colombia to the coups in Honduras, shows that the US has long prioritized geopolitical influence over genuine democracy or human
Oh,
rights.
definitely.
It's like history keeps repeating itself, but with a new face, right?
Yeah, it's as if they're recycling old strategies with updated rhetoric. But I have to ask, do you think there's any genuine change on the horizon? Or is it all a matter of maintaining control?
That's a tough call. There's always hope that international scrutiny and internal pressure might reform some of these policies. However, the structural nature of these interventions, fueled by economic and strategic interests, suggests that change is slow and frankly incremental. It's like trying to change the course of a
I
massive
get
river
that.
with just a few pebbles.
That's a vivid analogy. And in speaking of those forces, the whole narrative kind of circles back to imperial hypocrisy. When, on one hand, you're playing puppet master with these regimes, and on the other, you're calling for military action against a sovereign nation like Venezuela, it's a stark contradiction.
Exactly. And it forces us to confront a critical question. Is the US genuinely concerned with promoting stability, or is it chasing power and economic interests at the expense of ethical governance?
Yep, that's the burning question. What also struck me was the way the report, like Ben Norton's investigation, uses documentary evidence to build its case. It isn't just editorializing, there's a whole chronology of events that supports this narrative.
For sure, the layered presentation of clips showing statements like the CIA director's "we lie, cheat, steal" really lends a visceral punch. It reminds you that these aren't just isolated allegations, they're backed by concrete historical events and documented interventions.
True, it nails it. Yet, there is one part I still find a bit hard to swallow. The report seems to overlook some nuanced geopolitical pressures that might complicate these narratives. Don't you think there could be counterarguments about the complexities of US foreign policy that deserve a mention?
Yeah, that's a fair critique. While the report is robust in detailing hypocrisy, it might not delve deeply enough into the strategic imperatives that sometimes force these actions. Not to say they're justified, but there's often a web of geopolitical, economic, and security issues at play.
I can see that. Right, and maybe that's why sometimes it sounds more like a polemic than a purely balanced analysis. But then again, even polemics can shed light on uncomfortable truths.
Exactly. Even if it pushes a particular angle, the underlying message forces us to question the legitimacy of such selective support and intervention. It's, like you said, a big web of conflicting interests.
Right? It's messy. And the impact on ordinary people caught in these machinations must be enormous, whether in Colombia, Honduras, or Venezuela. The human cost of these policies is often underreported.
Absolutely. Behind all this high level politics are livelihoods being upended, communities destabilized, families torn apart by violence. The report serves as a reminder to question who really benefits from these policies.
That's a sobering thought. So, where do you think the discourse should go from here? Is there a call to action implicit in these narratives?
I believe so. When you have evidence piling up that the same strategies are still being deployed, it's a call to rethink not just policies, but also accountability. People should demand transparency and consistency
transparency
in
is
foreign
key.
policy.
Right. It's like we're at a crossroads where public awareness could drive change. Much depends on the media and informed debate, wouldn't you agree?
For sure. Without an honest, robust dialogue about the ethical and strategic dimensions of these interventions, we risk normalizing hypocrisy. And if history teaches us anything, it's that repeating the same mistakes only leads to more
Absolutely,
instability.
no doubt about that.